Do you like Emerald Fennell and her hit movie Saltburn? Do you remember that? And I think like people on TikTok were doing dances for it or something. I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, the weird Irish guy, Barry
Keoghan. You see his penis.
Yeah, and he did a dance at the end of the movie. I'm not sure. Were people replicating it on TikTok?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, also, actually, and there was something else they were replicating of his on TikTok.
But yeah, the point is that promising young woman and, as you said, Saltburn director Emerald Fennell, or however you say that last name, somebody who has been put in that position purely because she went to a private school, and somebody who is like, I just hate everything about her, because, well, part of it is the private school thing, but, you know, the movies that she produces, like her just general aesthetic, the vibe that she likes, it's just so shallow. Everything is just so shallow with her, and somehow she keeps getting the chance to make these movies with, and now, of course, Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi are starring in her adaptation of Wuthering Heights, and there are some early reviews of it.
The film, described by one attendee as aggressively provocative and tonally abrasive, leans hard into Fennell's now familiar brand of stylized depravity. It's a deliberately unromantic take on Bronte's novel, stripped of emotional nuance and full of salacious detours that serve shock value.
Unsurprising that, again, what I said before, it's shallow, it's just provocative without any meaning behind it. That's Emerald Fennell, and so I feel validated in my hates for her.
Luke, as if you needed a reason to hate women. Hello, and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films from the near and distant past, we give them a couple of watches, and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 50-year anniversary of the Monty Python film, The Holy Grail. It's The Holy Grail. I think is it officially called Monty Python's The Holy Grail? Is that right, Luke?
No.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, and of course, we're doing this to celebrate the release of Monty Python's The Holy Grail Part 2.
Yeah, because a lot of the cast are still at it in the comedic world, of course.
Yeah, well, John Cleese, actually, he can't be at it because things are too woke now.
Yeah. That's great. That's the if the word woke existed, of course it did, but, you know, in the context it's used back in the 1970s, this movie would probably have gotten called woke. Because it's taking aim at history and English culture somewhat, even though of course it just doesn't deal with identity politics. You know, woke covers a large range of topics, doesn't it, or subjects? Yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, it's basically if you don't like it, it's woke.
Yes. So Monty Python and the Holy Grail, to give it its proper name, is a 1975 British comedy film based on the Arthurian legend, written and performed by the Monty Python Comedy Group, which is Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin.
Yes.
It's directed by Gilliam and Jones in their directional debut. And of course, well, I say it's written by all of them, so there's not any need to say who it's written by, and there's not any need to say who it stars, because it stars all of the people I have just mentioned as well.
Yes.
So, there you go. Written, starred by, and stars the same group of people. It was released on the 3rd of April 1975. So yeah, we are quite a way away from its actual 50-year anniversary, but I just needed time to fit this in somehow, some way.
Yes.
Into our schedule, and this seemed like the best time to do it. So Michael, can you guess what the budget was for Monty Python and the Holy Grail? And,
no, I cannot.
Well, here's the thing. So before I looked at the budget, I had a guess in my head, because you were
wildly off.
Your Jaws guessing was so bad last week that I thought, you know what, I'll take a guess beforehand just to see.
Well, can I? What was the budget for Jaws again?
What was the budget for Jaws? I mean, it was released in the same year, of course, 1975.
Exactly, yeah. So it must be pretty similar logically.
What a great year for movies, 1975. What a great band as well. 1975.
Yeah, I think they're really, really good too.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. The budget for Jaws was $9 million. By the way, I don't think that's going to help you. By the way,
okay. So I would say this movie. Obviously they had to go back in time, so that would have made it a bit more than $9 million. No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, like I'm thinking about the fact that, of course, they do the whole. They don't even have horses. They do coconuts. They're just running around the woods for most of it. The movie feels very cheap. You might say this is not cheap. I'm going to say $1 million.
So I assume that you're saying $1 million, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
maybe this movie feels very British, but yeah, I'll say $1 million, whatever.
What do you mean it feels very British?
Well,
what
you know,
a
it feels like there's like a
stupid-
few British people in this movie, is I guess what I'm saying.
What a stupid thing to say. Yeah.
I guess some strong British vibes.
Yes. So that okay. So $1 million would probably be, around £330,000. I don't know. The budget was $626,000 or £282,000. Yeah. So $1 million would actually be about £450,000. So yeah, not too bad, I guess. But yeah, you're right. It's very, very cheap. Anyway, can you tell me what the box office was? And once again, well, actually, you know what?
Is this in pounds?
Tell me the 1975 run in pounds.
The 1975 run in pounds. Okay. Now, I have no idea. I don't even have the beginnings of an idea because I know Monty Python was very famous. Like now,
I don't think it was released in the United States in 1975.
I'm gonna guess it made £800,000.
2.3 million.
Okay, whatever.
So yeah, it's quite. It was quite popular, but upon re-releases, it's gone to $5.5 million. This is one of the most famous comedies of all time. Hence, of course, why we are reviewing it. You know that's why. So tell me, did you like Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Well, you know, I'm interested in whether you liked it. I'll say that up front because I know that you have a thing. I believe you said before that before the 1980s, there was no such thing as a funny movie. They just didn't know how to make comedies back then. And I will say, you know, as such, not to say that I would be afraid to express my opinion otherwise, I have to admit, I don't find this movie very funny, which is unfortunate in that this movie is a pure comedy. Like, this is a movie where if you aren't laughing at it, you aren't getting that much out of it, except for being like, okay, like, I can appreciate how, for the time, some of the kind of absurdism and, like, this unique style was interesting, but the experience of enjoying it, not great. I will say, I've watched this movie one time, so I obviously for this I watched the movie on my own, but I've watched the movie twice before. The first time with some old fogies, my parents, who were laughing at it, and I think that did elevate the experience because they were laughing at it, so I was like, okay, you know, like, people are laughing, that's happy. The second time I watched it was with my wife, and she fell asleep about 10 minutes into it. So that kind of shows you the generational gap there. But no, yeah, to answer your question, I guess technically speaking, no. It's not like this movie offended me. I thought it was like charming and fun. But then I have to be like, if I wasn't really laughing at it the whole time I watched it, and I was kind of aware there wasn't that much to get out of it, I guess I'm left saying the movie was, at best, a slightly nice version of average. But again, it does depend whether I'm going to like appreciate the historical, like, oh, look, this was the Monty Python, such an iconic blah, blah, blah. What did you think, Luke? Are you going to like now shock me and be like, I actually thought this was fantastic, the beginning of fantastic comedies?
So what did you think my preconceived notions were of this movie?
Well, like I said, you have just said before in, I can't remember what context, but you've said this several times. Your exact words have been, there weren't any, like, people didn't know how to be funny until the 1980s. That's exactly what you've said.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course, that's just true. Something changed in the 80s.
Yeah.
All of some people were funny. But no, comedy has gotten better since then, for sure. And I think with this movie, I'd heard, you know, quite a lot about it. Of course, it's a famous movie, particularly in this country. I have been witness to classic British comedy from the 70s and the 80s, I guess you could say.
Blackadder.
Just before stuff that was on like 20 years at least before I started watching TV, like Blackadder, for instance. You know, that's a good example. Which Blackadder? Well, when did Blackadder come out? Was that in
I believe
80s?
the first season was 86. Now let's see if I'm right.
So Blackadder basically copied this movie's whole flow, because Blackadder is like mocking like the past, various periods of the past, and this is what this movie's done.
Oh wait, I was so off. Good to me. The first Blackadder was 83, but yeah, it was after this.
Well, that wasn't so far off.
Yeah, okay, I guess not. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so Blackadder just basically copied these guys, is what I'm hearing. Because yeah, like this is, let's mock this particular period of history. Well, it mocks the whole Middle Ages basically, and that's what Blackadder Blackadder kept doing. And
yeah, I would say that Blackadder has slightly more. I'm going to compliment it. Sophisticated character humor. Like in that you kind of have these very well established, and they have like a lot of kind of. I'd say there's more funny dialogue where there's kind of like an actual joke to the dialogue instead of just someone saying, whatever. There's also a joke where Blackadder makes a joke about black people liking watermelon. So that's funny.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So I would say then that obviously because it's a TV show, you're gonna have jokes about the characters, naturally, because you can actually establish those characters.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because you know them better.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie is it's not even 90 minutes long. it's barely a movie. So yeah, I would say that this movie, considering I had negative expectations of this movie, having again seen what classic British comedy has to offer, and it's not that great. This movie wasn't as bad as I thought. And it's weird to say, considering it's one of the, supposed greatest comedies of all time. But I was going into it thinking, damn, this is going to be really shit. And it's not really shit. It's just like kind of shit. And that's not as bad as it could have been. It's not as bad as it could have been. Clearly, again, there was I could go on I could endlessly list the amount of times they set up a premise and don't pay it off well, or don't maximize the premise they've set up. I could do that again and again and again, and of course I can, because again, comedy was just kind of shit back in the day. And I will go through various examples of that in this review, which I'm sure everyone will look forward to.
I actually am I kind of enjoy the classic Luke says a joke could be funny situation. Sometimes.
Yeah, but because here's that I have watched growing up a lot of comedy, particularly like The Simpsons and Family Guy as well. But The Simpsons in particular is just really great comedic writing, as I'm sure you are aware of, considering you are a big fan of The Simpsons as well. Yes,
and The Simpsons has a joke that makes fun of this very movie.
Oh, remind me.
So in the episode where Homer goes to college, he meets the nerds, and they say, and we know the words to the worst Monty Python routine. We are the knights who say knee. And then nee, nee. And Homer's like, ha ha ha, knee.
Yeah, okay. So I do remember that, and that's funny, but I didn't remember that until now. So when we get to the Knights of Knee, that's funny. That
also,
that.
Family Guy has a joke making fun of Monty Python, which is that Meg is chained up in a basement, forced to watch Monty Python, and you can hear on the TV someone going, I have a pet hedgehog called Skippy, and every time I bounce it I'll go boing, boing, and then Meg's just there like, I'm a girl, I don't even like the good parts of Monty Python.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so that parody right there in Family Guy is a good example of why I don't like this much, because again,
you can't sanction it.
Well, again, I can't sanction the buffoonery. As who said that?
Oh god, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, what a great line. Because a lot of it is just silly, and again, that Family Guy parody is it's just silly. It's just like what is the joke? How is it clever in any way? It's not. And jokes don't have to be clever. Very very intellectual. They just have to have a basis that isn't just random bullshit. And a lot of this is just random bullshit, which again I expected. However, there were moments where I'm like, okay, this is actually okay. And if this was maximized, enhanced, it would be quite funny. But of course it wasn't, because of course it was the 1970s, of course. So no, they actually make a funny joke and actually fulfill its potential. Nope, we're not going to do that. We just can't be bothered doing that, or they just didn't know what they were doing. We're actually going to do something throughout the course of this review, Michael, which we haven't done before, which you might enjoy. Hopefully you will. And yeah, because it's going to be hard to review this, because as you say, it's just a bunch of sketches. There is no plot. There is no plot, so how are we going to properly review it and go through everything? Well, I've got a mechanism to do that. But anyway, let us get into the plot.
Yes, so it was conceived between the third and fourth series of the BBC television series Monty Python's Flying Circus, while the group's first film, and now for something completely different, was a compilation of sketches from the first two series. Holy Grail is an original story that parodies the legend of King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail. Let me say the obvious, Luke. How do you feel about the fact that this movie is set in, I believe, the 930s, when King Arthur, the story traditionally happens in the 500s? I mean, I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why, because I don't get why that was the case. But
yeah, I
whatever.
guess it's because like they had to go more medieval. They're like, if we go too early, then it will, we can't have castles and stuff.
Oh, well, were castles not around in the 5th century?
Oh yeah, but they were made of wood.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So
they were all like Roman and stuff.
They were saying, we don't care about this ancient legend or whatever. We're just going to mock it, which is why I of course said that Blackadder just copied this movie's whole flow, because that's what Blackadder did. But yeah, I'll talk about the humor a bit more later. But yeah, let's talk about actually what happens throughout the plot in a bit more detail.
Yes, King Arthur, accompanied by his squire, recruits his Knights of the Round Table, including Sir Bedivere the Wise, Sir Lancelot the Brave, Sir Robin the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot, and Sir Galahad the Pure. They reach Camelot, but Arthur decides not to enter as it is a silly place. Yes, of course you get that little song. Yeah,
well, that's kind of how I feel about the movie. It is a silly movie.
Oh, I see. So you're like, on second thoughts, let's not watch this movie.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't watch it again,
I've watched it 3 times. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's not that crazy considering how many people love it, and I've watched it probably like 20 times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, again, the humor is all about the absurdity of the Middle Ages, and so therefore, some of the humor works because it's pointing out the absurdity of what went on during this time period, but other times the humor is just kind of absurd for the sake of it, and is not parodying the Middle Ages, or it's not satirical in any way, and it's just like silly and stupid, and again, I'll use that phrase again, random bullshit, which isn't that great. But sometimes the dialogue is tight, which is, well, I guess this is why I thought, it's not, it's not as bad as I first thought, because sometimes the dialogue is quite tight and witty, and it has been thought about. It isn't like shitty improv.
I suppose I see what you're saying, because often you can get jokes that go on too long.
This happens in this one as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes jokes go on too long in this movie, but it's a case of the dialogue has actually been scripted out. Like, it's not improv, it's not on the spot, which I appreciated because I thought it may be kind of like that, but it's not. So that's what elevates it, from really shit. And yeah, there's just so many times, again, there's like supposed big payoffs, but there's not enough setup to a joke, and sometimes it's the opposite. There's too much setup, and then the payoff is shit. Again, they didn't really know what they were doing, and maybe I sound like a bit of a comedy nerd, and who am I to tell these guys, who of course are comedy legends, who am I to tell these guys, how to write a joke or how to be funny?
That's
but again,
point.
I have, again, I was going to make this point before, but I have, and hopefully with my analysis so far and throughout the movie, I'll go into it, because I have watched like so many comedies in my life, or so many like not like movies, like TV shows as well. I am incredibly well versed in, I think, what to expect when a joke is set up, or what should happen after a joke is set up, basically, or a premise of a joke is set up. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Like, oh, this should happen and this would be funny. This is how you do it. And often, and it's just because I've watched so much. Like, again, The Simpsons.
I wanted to ask, by the way, Luke, have you seen Fawlty Towers?
Yeah, I have not seen every episode, but I have.
Yeah, okay. Because the only reason I ask is because I was like looking up like TV comedies, and that literally came out in 1975. So, but the thing is, I've never seen it. Big
year for John Cleese.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, massive year for John Cleese.
He was like the what Jim Carrey was to the mid 90s. He was to the mid 70s.
Yeah. A lot of Fawlty Towers relies on the racist depiction of the Spanish waiter Manuel, which is funny. Senor, I did a mistake. Eh? Oh, you fucking Spanish moron! That's the show. Yeah. Oh god. But yeah. No, but I have not seen it again. I've not seen every episode, but I know what the show's about. But yeah, so well, basically the point I'm trying to make is people may question, am I an authority figure on comedy? Not really.
That.
No, not really. No. So how can I critique this movie? Well, of course you can just casually critique it. Oh, this made me laugh. This didn't make me laugh. But can you actually get into the details, the nitty gritty as to why this joke is not funny? And I believe I can. And it's not because again I'm that funny. I've just watched so much comedy. I just have. So, and I'm good at remembering things. I'm good at pattern recognition, Michael, and so yes. I can, and so therefore you know what should happen in a certain circumstance when a premise of a joke, has been created, and when it doesn't happen, you're disappointed, aren't you? Because you're like, well, that could have been funny, but it wasn't. So that
Your
happened
expectations were subverted, Luke, which is good.
Yeah, great. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
You're expecting it to be funny. But I do have that sense of like, oh yeah, that there are jokes here. But the thing is, like, for me personally, I can't think of any moments. I feel like there was maybe one, and if I'd really thought about this as like a thing we're doing going into this, maybe I could have thought about it in more detail. Moments where I was thinking like, oh, this is a way to make this joke even better, which is why I'm kind of interested to hear your ways of making the jokes better. But yeah, I don't doubt it's possible. It's not something that I personally feel I'm like super good at. Like, I don't know if I would trust myself to be in charge of improving a comedy. But I do. I kind of have. I have that, like, I would say maybe I have what's the word? Kind of like a sixth sense in that, because I have, like, you just watch. Oh, osmosis. That's what I'm thinking of. I think by osmosis, I have an idea of like what could make something funny, but I don't know how good I'd be at applying it in a reasoned way.
Yes, yeah, I know. I just think, again, based on, it's basically stealing stuff which I wouldn't remember from the top of my head, but just stealing stuff from other comedies, basically, just enhancing it. But again, these guys hadn't seen other stuff. But it's the same as everything. It's like technology. Technology in the 70s compared to today was shit, but now look how far things have come. I think there's a reason why, this movie amongst the younger generations isn't widely regarded as funny, as much as it is by the older generations. It's just because we're used to better comedy. We're just used to better stuff. So there you go. Yeah. So let's get it. Well, let's talk about how good this movie's reputation is.
Yes, we should. The film's reputation grew over time. In 2000, Total Film magazine voted Holy Grail the 5th greatest comedy film of all time. The next Python film, Life of Brian, was ranked first. A 2006 poll of Channel 4 viewers on the 50 greatest comedy films saw Holy Grail placed 6th, with Life of Brian again first. In 2011, an ABC poll for their primetime special Best in Film, The Greatest Movies of Our Time, found Holy Grail was selected as the 2nd best comedy after Airplane. Now, Airplane's a silly movie. I don't know if you know that, Luke. I would say I actually, bizarrely, haven't seen Life of Brian, and I should watch it, because my suspicion is that is actually a funnier movie, because...
Well, according to the ranking... Yeah, according to the rankings, it is, yeah. It's interesting, actually. So I think Americans are more aware of the Holy Grail compared to the Life of Brian, even though the Life of Brian is supposedly better. And we maybe in 4 years' time, if we're still doing this, we'll review Life of Brian.
Yes.
But yeah, I think maybe maybe the Americans weren't so keen on a movie mocking Jesus.
Yes.
Yes. But they were fine with a movie
because they don't care about the Middle Ages, because Middle Ages was before they existed, unlike Jesus, who was American.
Yeah, and it's mocking the monarchy.
Yes.
Which of course they hate. So yeah, let's get into the movie now.
The opening credits of the film feature pseudo-Swedish subtitles, which soon turn into an appeal to visit Sweden and see the country's moose. I think the plural is meese. The subtitles are soon stopped and claim that the people responsible have been sacked, but moose references continue throughout the actual credits. The subtitles were written by Michael Palin as a way to entertain the captive audience at the beginning of the film. See, now for me, this is all, in my view, and you might disagree, this is unfortunate in that this is the kind of comedy, and I'm going to have to use the line, it insists upon itself. It's very much like, oh, look at how funny we're being, look at how wacky we're being. And it's kind of, I mean, like Michael Palin said, because we're captive, because it's like the only thing happening, you're kind of like, okay, so this is the joke, okay, cool. And they definitely draw it out quite a bit as well, with the whole like, oh, this person's been sacked, but don't worry. Oh, wait, no, it's something else. And now this person's been sacked. And they kind of like do it at least 3 times.
Yeah. So I said in my notes, I said it's not that funny to give attention to the bad subtitles, which is kind of what you're saying, which is like it insists upon itself. It was just like if you just noticed like the random Swedish subtitles.
That's a good point. Yeah.
In the background. Again, this is me like critiquing and hopefully maybe improving.
And I think you're right, Luke. You're 1 for 1 on the improvements so far.
Great, that's great. Yeah, let's keep score on that. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, if you just like randomly in the background, you have some random Swedish bullshit. Okay, that's kind of
something like extra to notice.
Yeah. But if you are going to draw attention to it, like of course the the movie did. There needs to be some bigger explanation as to why there are Swedish subtitles. Otherwise, again, it just insists. Look, well, yeah, like you say, it insists upon itself, and it's saying, "Look how funny this is." Okay, there needs to be something bigger then, if you're going to do that. So this is what we're going to do, by the way, Michael. So this is what we're going to do.
Oh yeah. There's a mechanic, isn't there?
Yeah, the mechanism. So we're going to do something called rate this bit, RTB, rate this bit. So there are various bits throughout the movie. I don't know, there's like probably 15 that I've got listed, and I've already given a score out of 10 for each of them. So this Swedish subtitle bit, what are you going to give this out of 10? And I'll tell you my score after.
It's pretty weak, Luke. I'm almost thinking, I'm gonna start off bold. I'm gonna say 2. I genuinely don't think that there are any actual jokes I like less than this. We'll see though.
So that's interesting because I gave it a 3.
Okay.
But so again, this is my maybe low expectations. Maybe if I'd seen the whole movie.
Well, I said I was leaning 3. So to be fair.
Yeah, but I would have given it less because this is how it started off for me, and I rated it straight away, having not seen the rest of the movie.
Oh, that is interesting, actually.
So that the context of these ratings, that as I'm going along, I'm rating it rather than reflecting on the whole movie and how funny this was. So yeah, I was like, it's 3. It could be worse. So that's how low my expectations were. Anyway, let's move on to what Gary Arnold said.
Gary Arnold of the Washington Post called the film a fitfully amusing spoof of the Arthurian legend, but rather pokey in tempo, citing the running gag of Swedish subtitles in the opening credits and as an example of how the Pythons don't know when to let go of any shtick. Yes, and I think that is yes, we've already agreed with him. Well done, Gary Arnold.
Well done, Gary Arnold. You nailed it. Yeah, there needs to just be more context if you're going to draw so much attention to it. But yeah, it was just on in the background. It would be kind of funny, and you just noticed it because you could have maybe ignored it. Like and that's what's funny about it. It's like subtle. When comedy is subtle, it can be quite good.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it gives you like an insurance policy. Because you can have, and that's one of the things actually, we're talking about The Simpsons. One of the things I like about The Simpsons is, sometimes like there can be jokes in The Simpsons that aren't that funny, but because usually those jokes are quite well integrated into like what's happening and the characters and stuff, it means even if you're not laughing at it, you're not like actively going, oh, that's stupid because it's not funny.
Yes. See, this is good comedy analysis, Michael. Well done.
I will change my position. I am officially a comedy genius, fit to rank all comedy.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Integration. So if it's not that funny, you can just move past it, and it's not a big thing that it draws your attention. It's like laugh at this. No, it doesn't. Comedy doesn't have to be like that, and sometimes it can be an insurance policy, or sometimes it's just funny because it's like subtle, and you maybe didn't expect it because there's not a big build up. But yeah,
yes.
Let's move on.
Yes. In AD 932, King Arthur and his squire Patsy, who claps coconut shells as Arthur mimes riding a horse, travel Britain searching for men to join the Knights of the Round Table. Along the way, Arthur debates whether swallows could carry coconuts. Now, I will say, I know that you like Jaws. This might sway you into considering this movie a 10 out of 10. I do remember watching like a documentary about Monty Python, probably on BBC4, and they were talking about how in this scene, the original plan was for him to be riding a horse, but they didn't have the budget for that. Okay. So to save money, they decided to use the coconuts, which they were like, oh, that's funny.
So I expected that. And of course, the coconuts are already, they're absurd.
Yes.
So this is why I was frustrated about the scene, because of course this is the first time we see, the coconuts. But the whole fucking bit in this scene is about the swallows. It's like, well, that's... there's already something funnier going on, potentially funnier going on, which is the fact that you're not actually using a horse, you're doing the coconuts, clapping them together. And so, of course, this is the first time we see it as the viewers, so surely you're going to make a joke about that?
Yes, I get what you're saying. Nope. Yeah, I thought the swallow conversation was very out of nowhere and random.
Yeah, well, random bullshit. That phrase once again comes to mind.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, and maybe this is bad. This could be an example where I have to hand in my comedy analysis thing. Like, whether there should have been an in-universe explanation for the fact he lost his horse or something.
I was going to suggest, by the way, before you brought up that background, I was going to suggest break the fourth wall and just have King Arthur say, no, we haven't got the budget, something like that. And this movie doesn't break the fourth wall that many times, but sometimes it does. So I think it would have been fine, just a quick line, and it would have been funny. Or you could have done something more, you could have developed the joke a bit more. But it just seems weird that you already have this absurd situation of, we're not using horses, we're doing the coconuts, but then they don't joke about that, they joke about just swallows. Well, that's the bit, all about the fucking swallows, which again is just...
And they don't even make a sex joke.
Yeah, I know, crazy. So rate the bit, Michael. What are we giving out of 10?
So this is like a singular bit. I'm taking the swallows and the coconut joke in combination.
Just the whole scene.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. I'm actually gonna say 4. Just because I think like maybe the coconut thing is actually kind of funny. I mean, the swallows thing took away from it, but whatever.
Yeah, I also gave it a 4.
Good.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's move on.
Arthur also passes through a town infected with the plague. Yeah, so this is really historically inaccurate because there was only one plague and it was in 1342.
Yeah, so that's what I put. So, this is where I'm going to moan about historical inaccuracy because you're off by 400 years with this. Because it's like if you were doing a movie about modern England and you had a scene with Oliver Cromwell. Yeah. Yeah, it's absurd. Like, and I guess Arthur is like 400 years away, but whatever. You've already established the movies in 932 AD. But yeah, I just think they were like. I think in general they wanted to do a parody of the Middle Ages, as you'll see with the next.
It's
bit.
Weird because they could have done Robin Hood, and that would have made like 10 times more sense in terms of. But whatever, I guess like Arthur's a sillier story because it's more magical. So whatever, who gives a shit?
And you do, and we haven't talked about this in terms of the structure of the plot. Because again, well, the fact that Arthur is going around everywhere searching for the Holy Grail allows him to come. It's a good
premise.
Yeah, because he can then come into a lot of different situations, and you can then have a lot of different sketches. He's traveling around trying to find something. So yeah, and of course he's doing it here. Let's talk before we talk about the background to the screenplay. Let's talk about like the concept of like bring out your dead, and of course a guy has to kill. Well, yeah, a guy is not dead. But
that was pretty hardcore. Where he just smacks him on the head, kills him.
Some good dialogue, and I do like the concept. It's a funny concept, and
I would agree.
And I like how it ends. There is a good payoff here as well.
It is like a good spoof because we all know that like the Middle Ages was dirty. I mean, this is also kind of like as part of this, you get the line about that's the king because he's not covered in shit, right? That's
yes. Yeah.
So yeah,
again, they could have composed that line a bit better from what I recall, but yeah. I think give it a rating, Michael. Rate the bit.
I'm gonna say a 7. That's kind of I'm being a bit. Yeah, I'll say 7. Whatever. I think it's actually like it's maybe one of the funniest overall moments in terms of like the premise making sense and the way they kind of build it up, and it's not. It doesn't go on too long either. So yeah, I think it's solid.
I also gave it a 7.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Okay. In the first draft of the screenplay, half of the material was set in the Middle Ages and half in the present day. Whoa, hello, Mr. Titanic. The group decided to set the film during the Middle Ages and focus on the legend of the Holy Grail. Okay, so it doesn't really explain why they decided against half being set in the present day and what that would have looked like. So that's kind of interesting as a concept.
Just because I mean it's interesting as a concept, I just don't see how it would have worked.
Yeah, I'm not like maybe they wanted to do maybe they came up with the idea for Assassin's Creed.
Okay, yeah, but see, I think that's why that scene, bring out your dead. That's why it's in the movie because originally they were going to just do a parody of the Middle Ages in general.
Yes.
So that's probably why that scene is in there. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of jumping around. Arthur then recounts receiving Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake to 2 anarcho-syndicalist peasants who find his tale ridiculous. I have 2 things to say here. I mean, obviously we'll talk about the comedy as we have. It is kind of interesting that they eschew so much of the Arthurian legend, because obviously, like, him finding Excalibur, that's not a small part of the story, and he just, like, says it as backstory. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, maybe if they had actually... I suppose what I would say, if we're going back to the Simpsons thing, of sometimes it can be good if you have things other than the comedy to focus on, so it's not so reliant on the comedy, maybe if they had tried to tell more of the King Arthur story, you could say, oh, actually... it is at least a kind of serviceable adaptation of King Arthur. Again, that would kind of be taken away from the film being absurdist, whatever. But
yeah, because this film is just, as you say, absurdist. It's just mocking. It's just mocking everything, isn't it? So there's no chance they would ever be sincere with the King Arthur legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think again the concept of anarcho-syndicalist peasants is it's kind of funny, as of course.
Well, this is the meme of the movie. This is the thing that people still reference to this day.
Well, they reference a lot from this movie to this day.
Yeah, but I feel like I've seen, like, I can't, like, the kind of the quote of, like, so-and-so is no basis for a government system. Because obviously they say, like, oh, some woman handing out swords is no basis for a system of government. I swear I've seen, like, I can't think of the concept, but I swear I've seen people, like, make that joke about other countries of their system of government.
Yeah,
like, I know about the Electoral College and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, of course, is quoted quite a lot, and that would not surprise me. But yeah, just to focus on the joke, I think, of course, it is funny, kind of funny, because the opposite was true. They were serfs, they had no rights, so the fact that these peasants could have this political structure where they had power and it was anarcho syndicalist is it's kind of stupid, but at least there's some there's some foundations with the fact that it's just the complete opposite of what was true, and of course the whole mocking of the King Arthur thing, just mocking this stupid myth in history from a modern rational perspective, is kind of a layup. Obviously, if you mock these legends, like, oh, he pulled Excalibur from the stone or whatever, it's stupid, of course it is.
I mean, it's basically just a subversion of expectations, but not in a way where I'm making fun of it. Obviously, you wouldn't expect a peasant in the Middle Ages to have like fully formed academic class consciousness.
Yes, well,
therein is the joke.
That's why that bit is kind of funny, I get it because it is the opposite of what happened. I can appreciate that somewhat, but the whole Arthur, you pulled a fucking sword from you pulled Excalibur from the stone. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Because
of course it's stupid. Of course it's silly. So what are you going to give this bit out of 10?
I'm willing to say 6. I think maybe actually after a rocky start, it's kind of pretty okay.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. So, just down the middle. Anyway, let's continue.
After being impressed with his sword fighting skills, Arthur duels and defeats the Black Knight. So this is actually another really, you know what, they're all famous scenes. Okay, I'll stop saying it. But basically, the whole, he gets his arms chopped off. It's only a flesh wound.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the most famous bit from the Holy Grail. I think this is the most famous bit. And it does need a better setup as to why he doesn't give up. If you had a line beforehand where the Black Knight's like, you'll never beat me, I always win, I never give up, or something like that. Not so blatant, but something that would set up as to why he just doesn't give up. And of course, as you mentioned, there are some good lines. "'Tis but a scratch," and I do think actually the best. Well, the flesh wound is good, but I do think the best line. You know what the best line is in this bit, Michael?
No, okay.
It's we'll call it a draw then.
Okay,
That line is well done because it's perfectly timed. There's great comic timing on that delivery, and there's some weird bits where the Black Knight sounds kind of insane, like a modern person. He's like, "I am invincible," which is kind of just silly. It's a silly delivery, and again, that's just unnecessary. But overall, it's a solid idea, some well executed lines, and of course, it's quite famous. What are you going to give it out of 10, Michael?
I will say I think one thing that could have elevated it is if they leaned into the Black Knight as like this really leaned into him being like this imposing serious figure, and then kind of you saw like when he gets defeated, you realize it's all like he's almost delusional. I think that would be like a funny kind of switch. Just a better setup in general. I think is needed. So I do think this is pretty funny. I think I'll give this one a 6 too.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 7 actually.
Okay, I was thinking 7, but then I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit?
Okay.
I'm saying 6.
Okay. Right. Okay. Let's continue.
So, at an impromptu witch trial, Arthur recruits Sir Belvedere the Wise and is later joined by Sir Lancelot the Brave, Sir Galahad the Pure, Sir Robin the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot, and the aptly named Sir not appearing in this film, along with the squires and Robin's minstrels. Now, I will say, I know this is the 70s. I don't think we're going to have minstrels in this film.
So the witch trial, I think, again, is another case of showing the stupidity of this period, but at least they think about this a bit more. So that's good, but it does go on too long. What are we rating this bit?
I'm just going to say 6 again. I feel like, weirdly, I'm almost convincing myself this film isn't so bad. No, 5.
I already wrote 6, for God's sake. I'm taking your first answer.
Okay, fine, 6.
6. I also gave it a 6.
Yeah, so, right.
Yeah. And the Sir Robin, the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot, is just, of course, because that's his name in the movie, and it's not really a bit. It's just his name. I think it's not really that funny. I think if there was a scene regarding Sir Robin wanting the Sir Robin the Brave line and Sir Lancelot also wanting it, and then Sir Robin having to settle for the not quite so brave as Sir Lancelot line. If they could have done a scene
like Reservoir Dogs.
Just like Reservoir Dogs. Do you think that would have been funny?
Yeah, I think because, and also like maybe if like they both show up and they already have that name, I'm thinking about the Simpsons joke where there could only be 2 Krusties per region, and they have to say where they're all from, and one of them's like Texas, and then the other guy's like Brooklyn. Like, and they're both clearly from Texas. So maybe like that, where it's like they both show up like, what are your knights' names? One's like, well, I'm Sir Lancelot the Brave, and then the other one's like, well, I'm Sir Galahad or whatever he fucking was. The other guy Brave.
Yeah, but Sir Robin, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So but I think it's funny if like Sir Robin really wants the Brave title and he can't like have it, then, you know. But whatever, because you know it's kind of a demeaning name basically. Anyway, let's continue.
Arthur leads the knights to Camelot, but changes his mind after the knights in the castle perform a musical number, deeming it a silly place. So this is obviously like the funny thing is that Camelot is so significant to the story, but then they're just like, nope, screw that, it seems stupid.
Well, so this would enhance the comedy, I think, because you can have the knights. Well, I'm going to give a suggestion here. The knights perform the song, and you know, because Arthur and his knights, when they're outside the castle, and they could, you know, instead of just being outside the castle, they could be outside, you know, or at the door, having watched this musical number, and you know, and then they basically just turn around and Arthur says that line instead of being outside the castle. I think it would be funny if they were actually watching what was happening, you know, but it only cut to them after the musical number was finished, you know. Yeah,
that's a good point, because they're just like,
yeah. Again, it's just a little thing I'm sure they could have done. It would be easy to film, but yeah, I'm surprised, honestly. 'Tis a silly place, or whatever Arthur says. Well, I'm surprised it's such a famous line, because I don't think it's that funny, and there's no emphasis on it. There's no like setup. He just says it, you know. Like, I was expecting him to go, you know, having heard of that line before. Of course, I was expecting him to like really put some, like I said, emphasis on it. Like, go, 'tis a silly place or something, you know. But he just casually says it, which I don't really find that funny. I don't know why it's become so famous, honestly.
I think it's because there are lots of silly places is the real answer. But yeah, and I guess, I mean, obviously it's maybe one reason why it sticks out is because it is the moment where they basically say, screw the original story, which obviously is kind of like almost like the thesis. You could say like in some sense it's kind of like a thesis statement for I mean, obviously kind of as you already said, like it stands out as a description of the film itself. So maybe that's the reason why people really remember it.
But again, maybe people like that. I would not.
But then they would want to go to Camelot. It's inconsistent, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah, because everything is silly in this world. So why would they not want to go to a silly place? So yeah, rate this bit, Michael. The musical number, the line from Arthur. Go on.
I'm gonna say 4. I think finally I've broken my positive ratings.
You did not like the musical number.
I thought the musical number was, as far as I remember, average. I don't really remember like any moments. I can't even remember the tune of it for one thing. But I also can't remember any lyrics from the musical number.
No, well, they say like spam a lot, and that has been actually developed into an actual musical.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a 6, by the way.
God then appears and orders Arthur to find the Holy Grail. Arthur and his knights arrive at a castle occupied by French soldiers who claim to have the Grail and taunt the Britons, driving them back with a barrage of barnyard animals. Yes. Famous John Cleese, French guy, another classic scene. Can you deny it, Luke?
Well, you don't sound like you think it's a classic scene.
Yeah, well, you know, actually, I guess what I'm realizing is when you talk about the film, you realize there are like a lot of scenes where you're like, oh yeah, that scene. Whereas when you're watching the film, you're kind of just like, oh, that thing.
Well, it's only that scene because of the additional context. If I was watching this movie having not heard anything about it, I would not think anything of this scene.
Yeah, I think the line that people always remember is, or at least the one I remember, I shouldn't say people, the thing where it's like, I thought in your general direction, just because it's like it's very silly, you know, I know we've never used this word before, there's kind of like the insults that aren't really that good as insults, is I guess the joke.
Did you say like, another one is like, your grandfather smells of elderberries or something?
Yeah, that's a silly one, because that doesn't even function as an insult. Elderberries, I'm sure, smell very nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of silly.
ChatGPT, how do berries smell?
God, we've used that word so many times, but of course, naturally, that is the style of comedy. So of course we have to use that phrase or that word. But yeah, I do think the concept of a group of French soldiers being, you know, randomly in England without the king's knowledge is kind of funny. But again, they don't really delve into that at all. You know, that whole concept is like, oh, wait, why are there a bunch of French soldiers in this castle in England? You know, and the King of England could be like, well, Arthur, of course, you know, could be like, oh, well, get out of there, you know.
Yeah, he could be like, bloody two-tier Keir hasn't stopped the small boats, maybe.
Yeah, he could say something.
That would have been pretty topical.
Yeah, some nice modern 50 years in the future political satire there. Yeah,
I honestly think it would have improved this movie if it had miraculous prophetic powers. That's just me.
Okay. So yeah, I don't find the French soldier that funny. And do you know what I put in my notes? Because I've just read this just now. I put it's just silly. Again,
Yeah.
oh god, I mean, yeah, it's just not that funny. What are we gonna give it out of 10, Michael?
You know, I'm still gonna give it a 5. I don't think it's like super. So obviously, I think it's a step down from some of what we've been speaking about thus far, but or like recently. But I still think it's like I guess like I like the silly French accent. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, so I'm actually gonna give it a 5.
Yeah. I think it could have been better in a lot of ways. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for me. So God telling Arthur to find the Holy Grail, by the way, is that a simple parody of what happened in the Arthurian myth, or is that something else?
Yeah, I don't know why God is there. I think, like, obviously, kind of, we already mentioned the life of Brian being controversial. I feel like, in some sense, just the scandal of having God show up as a kind of, like, goofy cartoon character was enough for them to be like, yeah, that's the joke.
Does King Arthur actually try to find the Holy Grail in the myth?
He does. Wait,
He does,
I assume he does. I assume, because, like, it's the quest, right? He goes on a quest. I would imagine God doesn't directly tell him to.
He does a bunch of fucking stuff, though. You know, he defeats the fucking the Vikings or whatever, doesn't he? Like he pulls Excalibur from the stone. He founds Camelot and the Knights of the Round Table. You know, he's doing a bunch of shit, and if he also goes for the Holy Grail,
he's got a lot going on. Yeah. By the way, Luke, I didn't want to have to tell you this because there's no reason why. The fact of the matter is, he doesn't pull Excalibur from the stone. He pulls a completely separate sword from the stone, and he pulls Excalibur from a lake. This doesn't matter, and it's stupid that there are two swords, but I just know that there could be some Arthurian fanboys in the comments who might get annoyed at you conflating these two actually different swords.
So Excalibur isn't the sword he pulls from the stone?
No, Excalibur's not the sword from the stone. I don't know if does the sword from the stone have a name? Let's find out.
Surely that sword should have a name.
Oh, okay, wait, okay, so don't worry, okay, so you're okay. Basically, this is the AI overview. In Arthurian legend, the sword pulled from the stone by Arthur is often referred to as Excalibur. However, some versions of the legend distinguish between the sword in the stone and Excalibur, suggesting they are different swords. So, you know what, Luke, that's fine. I was aware of these other versions, but clearly...
here's the thing, it's all made up.
What?
So, yeah. That's the key
When are you planning
thing.
on telling me this?
Anyway, let's go on.
Yes, so... Bedivere concocts a plan to sneak in using a Trojan rabbit, but forgets to tell the others to hide inside it. The knights are forced to flee when it is flung back at them. Now, Luke, I don't know if I'm about to disappoint you here. I actually think this is a really, well, not really funny, but I think this is actually, just to give something away, my favourite joke, just in terms of, for me, and you could say it's silly, but for me, it's slightly understated in the way, like, he kind of just has that line of, okay, it's in the city, and here's the plan. When they all go to sleep, we'll jump out of it, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like, you could say they kind of then, fucking like, explain it when he's like, but we're not in there or whatever. But I like the moment where when we get the punchline, it is basically kind of, I don't know if subtle is the right word, but it's like, the character as they're saying it, they don't realize why it's stupid. And I like that moment of comedic tension where they've said this incredibly stupid thing.
Yes,
I like it.
I mean, I don't know why you'd assume that I wouldn't like it, because I do like just the concept. The concept is good, and I'm kind of offended you think I wouldn't like the concept. Because I'll
stop trying to anticipate your feelings.
It is kind of funny, we're going to do the Trojan horse thing with the Trojan rabbit, which again, there's no point in it being a rabbit to be honest, but whatever, it's fine. So we're going to do the Trojan horse thing, but we're going to forget to get inside it. We're not actually going to execute the plan because, we're going to actually forget to do the main part of it. And I think that is quite funny, but I think it could have been maximized more. It could have been set up better, and I think the line or when he's telling Arthur what's going to happen, that could have been executed better as well. Honestly, I don't think there was again enough emphasis on it. Considering that was the joke. But maybe you would disagree. You prefer how maybe subtle it was. I think it can be subtle, and also there can be more emphasis on it. But yeah, I do like the whole concept, and I do like when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of clever. I like this. I like this bit. It is funny, but again, it's just not it doesn't reach its full potential, unfortunately. What are you going to give it out of 10, Michael?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it gets at the nature of the rating system. For me, I'm just going to say this out front. I'm not going to give even the best joke in this film a 10 because I think that would be ridiculous. To me, to say like there's a 10 out of 10 joke, and it's like, it's not that funny. I'm going to give this an 8. I could even say a 9, but I think this is possibly the best joke in the film. So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah. It's certainly, I think, one of the best, maybe the best, like, concept or the premise of a joke. So yeah, I'm going to say it's a 7 out of 10 for me. Yeah, it's quite high on my ratings as well. So yeah, let's move on to what Vincent Canby had to say.
Yeah, so Vincent Canby of the New York Times. Let's.
Jesus.
Vincent Canby of the New York Times said the film had some low spots, but had gags which were non-stop, occasionally inspired, and should not be divulged, though it's not giving away too much to say that I particularly liked a sequence in which the knights, to gain access to an enemy castle, come up with the idea of building a Trojan rabbit. Yes. Yeah. I mean, he says like that, it kind of like drives home how small of a moment it is, because it's kind of like, I bet someone will be reading that and they'd like imagine there's like a scene or two of them coming up with this idea or something, when it is literally just like a 2-minute bit.
No, they should have put more effort into the whole bit, because it was like one of their funniest bits.
Yeah.
It's just kind of glossed over, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like, I mean, we mentioned Blackadder. It feels like a joke that in Blackadder would be like an entire act of an episode. Like Blackadder would come up with a cunning plan, and then Baldric, the stupid character, would be like when they go to do the plan, he'd suddenly reveal he's forgotten like a crucial detail, like actually getting inside it. Anyway, Arthur decides the knights should go their separate ways to search for the Grail. A modern-day historian filming a documentary on the Arthurian legends is killed by a knight on horseback, triggering a police investigation. So yeah, this is, I mean, I suppose they do kind of said it in the present day. So we said, oh, you know, like, what a silly idea. But they actually at least partially done that. Yeah, and very much fourth wall. I don't even know if it's the fourth wall. It's more like the fifth wall, because it's a completely unrelated thing to the film happening. But yeah, it is a joke.
Yeah, so the whole police investigation thing, it happens in the background, of course. And who is the knight that kills the historian on horseback?
Is it Lancelot? Because Lancelot's the person who kills all the wedding guests.
Maybe, but everyone is arrested though. So I don't necessarily think it is Lancelot. But yeah, it's just very weird. It comes out of nowhere. And of course, you could say, well, there is a payoff, because the payoff is, it ends the movie as everyone gets arrested. But yeah, it's there's just no like foundation to the joke. It's almost as if, and you'll read how they decided to end the movie, and this may be accurate. It's almost as if they needed an excuse to end the movie. So they're like, okay, we'll have this historian be killed, even though there's no modern character. Well, of course, the police and the wife and everything, but there's no modern characters in this movie. There's no real modern references in this movie. I didn't even have a rate this bit thing, because it's not even a bit.
Yeah,
it's just there's nothing really funny to it. I don't see how there could be anything funny to it. I don't think
apart from it just being surprising.
Yeah, I guess so. But just something surprising happened. If the historian said a line which, if he was saying something and then he was killed, and the line he was saying made the fact that he was killed funny, okay, maybe that could be. But I don't think that was the case. I just think he was saying generic stuff and he was just killed. So
yeah,
whatever, man. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, so Sir Robin avoids a fight with a three-headed knight by running away while the heads are arguing amongst themselves. Yeah, they have an argument.
Yeah, I think Sir Robin, I think he should have interacted with the minstrels more in the first song, when they were saying he would survive all these things being done to his body.
Yes, that was funny.
Yeah, but he doesn't say anything. He could say, well, hold on there, I don't know about that, like, just calm down. But then in the second, they do fix that in the second song, when he does interact with the minstrels singing, he does say, well, no, I was just going away, or whatever, as they were saying he was cowardly running away, or bravely cowardly running away.
Yeah.
So they do that in the second song, or have Robin interact. They should have done it in the first song more. But yeah, the whole bit, I think, with the songs and the three-headed knight. Well, give me your rating, Michael.
3. I don't know. I mean, yeah, whatever. It was maybe I could say 4, but I'm gonna say 3.
Yeah, I gave it a 5, so I wasn't as harsh as you, because I thought the song was quite decent. Again, could have maximized it more. So yeah, so Sir Galahad now, Michael.
Yes, Sir Galahad is led by a Grail-shaped beacon to Castle Anthrax, which is occupied by nubile young women who wish to be punished, but is rescued against his will. The big thing about this one is they literally break the fourth wall by addressing the camera and saying, "Do you think this bit should have been cut?" Which is interesting,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I was going. Did you say bitch, by the way?
Bit. I can't remember, scene, I guess they said. We've been using the word bit to describe the bits, so I'm saying bit.
I just heard you say bitch is all.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. Maybe my ears are hearing stuff. But yeah, no, I think yeah. So I was going to mention that the fourth wall break. I don't think it's funny at all.
No, I don't either.
And it's
I hated it.
You hated it. It's just too long as well. And you know what? I was expecting there to be more innuendo because that's the whole. You've set up this premise of he's in this castle with a lot of women who are. Well, he's interested in having sex with them. Obviously, they're interested in having sex with him. That's the whole fucking joke. And then there's just no innuendo. It's like, what are you doing? This is prime.
Yeah, it should be like a carry-on film.
Yeah, there was like exactly. Well, you've set up this carry-on premise, so pay it off. And there's like at the end, right at the end of the scene, there's like 3 lines where like that there's potential innuendo. I can't remember.
Would you like to sheathe your sword? I can't remember. Did they say that? I don't know. No. Surely they make a joke about swords.
No,
penises.
They don't. No,
terrible.
No, that's
Lances?
one thing. No, nothing. Again, just a wasted opportunity. And I think at the end,
did they ever say something about like riding my coconuts? Wouldn't that be great? That would have been like, and then that would have like brought in. Oh, that would have been a great joke. Something about like, I must ride off with my coconuts, and then she'd be like, she'd say, well, how about you ride off with my coconuts, you fucking man whore?
Yeah, well, she wouldn't have said that, would she?
Well,
said, I am very interested in your coconuts as well, or something like that.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I would like to ride on your coconuts while you penetrate me.
Yes. So yeah, too long. No innuendo. The fourth wall break is just shit. And yeah, I don't think Sir Galahad. It doesn't make sense how he does a 180. Like it's not believable that all of a sudden he really wants to have sex with these women after having no interest before and just being after the Grail. So yeah, I think that needs work as well. So rate the bit, Michael, out.
In hindsight, I probably should give him the last one a 4 because this one is significantly worse than that. But whatever. I'm gonna say based on that I think this one is closer to that first joke, which I gave a 2, than the other. So I'm gonna give this one a 2.
Yeah, I only gave it a 3.
Yeah.
I could have gone lower, I guess. Okay. Well, let's see the next one.
Oh, monsieur, you could have gone lower. See, that's the jokes you can do. Anyway, Arthur and Bedivere are given directions by an old man and attempt to satisfy the strange requests of the dreaded knights who say, "Nee." So, obviously, shrubbery, that's the joke, because a shrubbery is a funny word.
Yes, and it's a weird thing, to be requested, Who cares about shrubbery?
And then later on they say a different thing instead of knee, which is another silly word.
Yes, and then they don't like the word it.
Yes, they don't like the word it.
It's just quite shit. Again, it's just like silly for the sake of it. And I put in my notes as well, this is the worst bit. And it's interesting that apparently the Simpsons writers agree with that.
Yeah.
Because it's just... And I'd heard of this as well, and I think I'd heard of this probably because of The Simpsons. That it was in the back of my brain, like, oh yeah, I've heard of this joke before. Why have I heard of it? Probably that Simpsons episode. Yeah, so I think this is quite bad, even though it's all famous for some reason. So rate the bit, Michael.
I'm still going to stick at 2. This could be, I think I could agree with you. This is the worst bit, and maybe put it in the 1 slot, but I think I'll say 2.
Yeah, well, I put it as a 1. So
okay, I could. Yeah, maybe you're braver than me, but whatever. Lancelot receives an arrow shot note from Swamp Castle. Believing the author is a lady being forced to marry against her will, he storms the castle and slaughters several wedding party members, only to discover the author is an effeminate prince. I don't really understand. It seems very coincidental that the prince would be effeminate, and also he assumes that he's a lady, because he very well could have just been a regular manly prince and also been assumed to be a lady. I'll say this. I do think that it's a very funny joke. Just because it's kind of creative with, I guess, like the visual storytelling or whatever of it, when he's like very far away and it keeps cutting back and forth between him being really far away and like them just waiting for him, and then suddenly out of nowhere he's right there. I think that was like clever in terms of the editing. Like they were kind of being funny with the editing, and I like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
and I also kind of find the idea of him just slaughtering everyone kind of funny.
Yeah, that it was kind of funny. Yeah, because I didn't expect that. It's just but I didn't realize. Well, I didn't realize that Lancelot thought that it was a damsel in distress.
Yeah, they don't make it obvious.
Yeah, exactly. They don't make it obvious. They don't set it up as well as they could have. Of course, they don't. And yeah, the bit with the the father, whatever he is, who is doing that bit with the guards, like, no, you stay in here and don't let him leave.
Oh, that is very unfunny. Good point.
Yes, and it goes on for a bit too long as well. So yeah. What are you going to rate this bit?
5. I think the thing is, this one's more mix and match. There's some bits which I could give a 6 or even a 7, but yeah, other bits which I give like a 3 or a 4. So I'm just going to split it down the middle, say 5.
Okay, I give it a 3. So there you go.
Okay, good. I'm glad I've rated one higher than you. Right. Variety wrote the storyline was basically an excuse for set pieces, some amusing, others overdone. Gene Siskel felt it contained about 10 very funny moments and 70 minutes of silence. Too many jokes took too long to set up. I agree with that. Like, yeah, the 70, and that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid where it's a comedy and everyone's just like silent and you're just like, okay.
Yeah,
because
I was thinking about it while watching this movie. Of course, I watched it alone, and I don't think I laughed at all. Like once, and I was just watching this movie just in silence.
Yeah,
and
there's nothing sadder than that.
Yeah, again, I already have given my position. I was never going to like it. So yeah, but it was just I kind of agreed with Gene Siskel, but maybe instead of 10 funny moments, like 2 potentially funny moments if they had done a better job.
Arthur and his knights regroup and meet Tim, the enchanter, who directs them to a cave where the location of the Grail is said to be written. The cave is guarded by the rabbit of Can Banog. Underestimating it, they attack, but the rabbit easily kills 3 knights. Arthur uses the holy hand grenade of Antioch to destroy the creature. So it's kind of funny because it's like a rabbit, and then like this is it's silly. The one thing I guess you could say is at least we have a plot going on.
What word did you use then?
I used the word just.
That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah. No, you used the word silly.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Insightful.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. But I think this whole bit, again, it's too long, and so the rabbit being very aggressive and killing them all, I don't think is that funny, because it was set up to be like.
Oh yeah, like this is, you were mentioning like moments where you can see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
This is a prime example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the guy keeps saying, "Oh yeah, no, this rabbit is going to kill you," and so he does it. So there's nothing funny there. But,
it would have been fucking funnier actually if they just like drop kicked the rabbit and it just died. Like the rabbit actually wasn't a threat at all. That would be funny.
So it's like they hadn't tried just picking it up and like just kicking it. Like no one had tried doing something like that, because it's a fucking rabbit. And yeah, the enchanter was like, oh, okay, didn't realize it was so easy. That would have been funny because you wouldn't have really expected it, or there would have been some subversion there instead of actually what happened. But okay, so the hand grenade thing, it's kind of funny, like having a holy hand grenade, But again, there's just no setup to it. They just say the line, oh yeah, let's bring out the hand grenade. Again, there's just god, so many, because it's kind of a funny concept having a hand grenade in in the Middle Ages. And then so this is the bit which I think there is another bit here with the rabbit being killed, which I thought this could be funny. So so they just toss the grenade and they do that stupid bit about like, oh yeah, on the number 3, let's make sure it's the number 3 and not the number 5 or whatever. Again, it goes on
yeah, that one, yeah. I can't. I've kind of blocked that joke from my memory because I remember it just being this long thing about them talking about the numbers. So basically, when the hand grenade is thrown, I thought this was going to happen because it was so obvious. Like it would land next to the rabbit, and they'd all be looking, eagerly at the rabbit being about to be blown up, and then you just see this cute little rabbit just blown up to smithereens. I thought that was going to happen. And there's going to be a setup to it, and then it blows up, and there's like bits of rabbit flying everywhere, and everyone would be like, "Yay, we did it!" And everyone, would be celebrating. Just blowing a rabbit up with a grenade. It's that would be kind of funny as a concept, but no, they just throw the grenade, the rabbit dies, and then they just move on. Not fulfilling the potential of the bit you have set up. So there you go. Just disappointing once again. What are we going to give it out of 10? 4.
Okay, 3 for me.
Yeah, I will say, by the way, I the thing about the hand grenade, I think it's funny. I remember like one time there was a video of a guy and he was talking about this is going to be a very quick thing. Basically in Genesis, there's a bit where God talks about like guarding the Garden of Eden, and he just lists like these like pretty tame things, like there's like a snake with 2 heads or whatever, and he's like, and then he put a flaming sword, and this guy's like, oh yeah, so like the joke there is you got all this other stuff's pretty tame, and then this thing, and like I like that idea. I think they could have done something like that where they have like these weak weapons, and like, oh, and by the way, we also have a hand grenade. Anyway, inside the cave, they find an inscription from Joseph of Arimathea, directing them to the castle of Ugh, but they are attacked by the animated legendary Black Beast. The knights escape after the film's animator suffers a fatal heart attack, erasing the Black Beast. Yep, another fourth wall moment. Black Beast looked pretty cool. The ARG thing went on a little bit too long.
This I think in this movie there's a lot of like, I guess, cartoon logic. Like, it is silly, and you would maybe expect that more in cartoons.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course we finally do get an actual cartoon, here with the legendary Black Beast. And yeah, the again when the fucking guy says the Castle of R, I thought they were going to do a bit of like, oh, well, is there a problem with you? Is there something wrong? Have you hurt your toe or something? Or so something that would
So the guy reading it, they think he's making that sound. Yeah.
Yeah, they think he's in pain for some reason, but they don't even do that. Just like, well, is that what it says? The Castle of R? I was expecting a whole joke regarding that, but nope. So yeah, that was disappointing too. So what are we gonna give this bit out of 10, Michael?
Oh, fucking 5.
Okay, I'm gonna
5,
give it. Well, a 4 for me, so I'm consistently lower than you right now. So maybe I was just pissed off at the end of the movie.
Yeah, see, maybe this explains, actually, because obviously the other thing here is it's not just our personal opinion, it's also someone who went into this having never seen the film before, and someone went into it having seen... So maybe for you, like, you were kind of rating it higher at the beginning, because you were like... But then as you got through it, anyway, whatever. The knights approach the Bridge of Death, where the bridge keeper demands they answer 3 questions in order to pass. Lancelot easily answers simple questions and crosses. A cocky Robin is defeated by an unexpectedly difficult question, and an indecisive Galahad fails an easy one. Arthur asks for clarification on a question on the airspeed velocity of a swallow. The bridgekeeper cannot answer and is thrown into the gorge. I do like the idea of them thinking it's a really simple question, and then the guy gets thrown off by the question suddenly out of nowhere being really difficult. The other twists on it are fine. Is my stance. I think basically this idea that there's a guy asks you 3 questions, and then 3 questions are all slightly different in different ways each time, or the answers are different. It's okay, and it's reasonably fast paced.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because it is kind of fast paced. You're right. Yeah, again, I don't think it's maximized, but I kind of like the premise again. Like, oh, everyone's scared about the questions, but then 3 of the questions are easy. Oh, it's not so bad, and then he gets a hard question. So yeah, that's kind of good. So what are we gonna give it out of 10?
See, I feel like the 6s at the beginning were funnier than this, so I'm gonna pin myself to a 5.
I also gave it a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, better than the last few bits. Yeah, I had a run of 4 bits in a row which were under 5. So back to a 5.
This movie ends quite weak, which is kind of the opposite to what you want in a way.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. I was like, have I just got harsher with the ratings? But I just think no. A lot of the funnier bits are near the beginning and middle of the movie, and they're not even that funny.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. This is one of those movies where I kind of got bored, and I had a moment where I went to go get some water, and I just was just stood in the kitchen I have noticed. Anyway, so Lancelot is arrested by police investigating the historian's death. Arthur finds Castle Arg occupied by the French soldiers from earlier in the film. After being repelled, they summon an army of knights. However, the police arrive, arrest Arthur and Bedivere on suspicion of the murder of the historian, and break the camera, abruptly ending the film. That's a lot of let's say bizarre things that happened just there. We should have got the thesaurus out from the beginning.
Yeah, not silly, bizarre. Yeah, I mean the French soldier return wasn't great. Again, I didn't really like that in the first place. So
yeah, honestly, I thought it was pretty imbecilic.
Yeah, I think again it could have been funny if Arthur and who was it, Belvedere or whatever, they were knocking on the castle doors and they were like, I wonder who's in here, and then the French soldier appears like, it is me, and they're like, oh no, not this guy, because of their previous experience. But yeah, it wasn't set up that well either. And yeah, as I have, I've used that word a lot, like set up and payoff and maximizing. But that's the thing, a comedy, a really good comedy, you do have to think about it, and you do have to set things up, in a way which is, you have to maybe think about it surprisingly quite a lot. And because that's what putting some effort, making sure everything is just right. That can be, then you get a good payoff. And I think a great example of that, of course, is certainly a sitcom that you've seen, Arrested Development.
Yeah,
Arrested Development maximizes every single premise, and they really think about things, and it's so intricate. And again, that is the key to really good comedy. I think you do have to think about things and make things quite intricate, even though supposedly, it's a comedy, you shouldn't think about things too much. But no, I think kind of the opposite is true.
Yeah.
True, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the African swallow thing, that wasn't great in terms of how it was set
No.
up. So yeah, that's the thing. They kind of had the basics of like, oh, what if we have something at the beginning of the film and then have it show up later? But yeah, I don't think they'd really worked out. They don't even have like the rule of 3 or anything. That's important.
No, I do think they mention an African swallow for another time in the middle.
Okay, never mind then. They do have the rule of 3. Okay, well done.
Yeah,
They pioneered it.
But the whole thing about the police arriving and we don't get to see them actually get the Grail. I don't really care at all. I mean I don't.
Oh yeah, because you don't care about the plot.
Yeah, I don't care. Like it's. Well, I'm just happy it's over. To be honest, like yeah, fine, fucking end it. Good, well done to the policemen. Honestly, well done to them. Congrats to them. Well done. You saved us all. No, but anyway, it's interesting actually. Well, let's rate the bit first. Actually, Michael, what are you going to give it out of 10?
4.
4. Okay, for me it's a 3. So there you go. So I have the final scores by the way, but I'll tell you.
At the doors.
I'll tell you after. So to talk about the background to the ending.
This is a long section, so bear with me. The cast joked that the fact that the Grail was never retrieved would be a big letdown, a great anti-climax. Graham Chapman said a challenge was incorporating scenes that did not fit the Holy Grail motif. In a 2017 interview, John Cleese expressed disappointment with the film's conclusion. The ending annoys me the most. It ends the way it does because we couldn't think of any other way. Scripts to the film and notebooks that are among Michael Palin's private archive, which he donated to the British Library in 2017, do document at least one alternative ending that the troupe considered, a battle between the Knights of Camelot, the French, and the killer rabbits of Carn Bainog. Due to the film's small budget, that idea for a much pricier option was discarded by the Pythons in favour of the ending with King Arthur getting arrested, which Palin deemed cheaper and funnier. I mean, yeah, bringing back the rabbit wouldn't have... I don't think that would have been funnier. Maybe it would have been more entertaining. Probably not, because again, it would just be mindless action since you're not really invested in anything that's going on. So it's a no-win situation, Luke. That's what it is.
No, I agree. It's the thing is, the whole movie to me isn't funny, so I don't really care. And I don't think the rabbit being brought back would be funny, and I don't think a massive battle at the end would be that funny, and it would be pricier. And I don't think, I don't think King Arthur getting arrested is funnier. And so yeah, I just think it's shit. So whatever, do whatever you want. I don't care. The movie's over. That's all I care about. So let's conclude, Michael. You go first.
Yeah. So I think kind of as I said at the beginning, the problem with this film is that it is entirely about the comedy. This isn't like there's no plot. This isn't like an action comedy, an adventure comedy. It's just a comedy, and the jokes aren't that funny. And again, even though like I've rated some of the jokes like 6 and 7 and stuff like that, if this was a scale where we were including jokes from every single comedy, including much better comedies, I don't know if any of these would have even gone past the 5 mark. This was, we were rating on a scale here, and it still wasn't that great. With that said, I'm gonna say a low 4, and that's purely because, like, at least there's kind of a charm to the film. But
Okay.
you could absolutely justify going lower.
Okay, so what I have done is I've added up all our scores from the bits, all the scores that we've given for the bits, and because that's the thing, this movie is just a vehicle for some funny, sketches. That's all this movie is. So therefore, how funny we think the comedic bits are overall, that's how much we should rate the we out of 10, right?
Yeah.
You agree with that logic?
I do, yeah. That I kind of see what you're saying now. I wonder how consistent I was with that.
Okay, so we rated 17 bits in total.
Yeah.
You got a score, Michael, or you gave these 17 bits, a total score of 78 out of course, 170. I gave it them 76.
Oh, we were very close in the end, weren't we?
Yeah.
By the way, Excel can automatically make averages, right?
No.
Oh, it can. If you just drag over the things, it'll tell you the average.
Yes, I know that. I was writing it down.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I wasn't putting this in an Excel sheet. But yeah, so the average, Michael, for you was 4.6. The average for me was only 4.5. So of course, there's not that much of a difference. So you should really give this movie a 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to do that.
I should also do that. 4.5 out of 10. Well, you don't give half ratings, do you?
I say middling 4.
Yeah, middling 4. Yeah, so I'm not going to give it a 4.5 out of 10 because although that's what I rated the bit, again, the fact that the movie relies so much on it, and it kind of fails. It just degrades the movie.
Yeah, because that would be kind of assuming that everything else is average, when in reality, everything else is not present.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to really, rely on this being a funny movie, and it's just not. So that drags it down from the 4.5 to, 3.5. Let's just say 3.5
Yeah.
again. Yeah, just again. I've said the word disappointing quite a few times, but again, I didn't expect much. I expected this to be really quite bad, and it's just kind of bad. 3.5 out of 10 could be worse. Basically, it's 2 stars. And I was perhaps fearing it would be a 1-star movie, just because I just don't like the comedy, or I just don't think comedy from this era was good. This is one of the greatest comedies ever, Michael, and we've just slandered it, haven't we?
I know, yeah. I'm kind of interested in Life of Brian, but we standard it. We're going to get so many people attacking us, but just remember, y'all are old fogies. And to be fair, we can't be that mad at this movie, because this movie walked so that other movies could run. And that's the thing. It's not as if we begrudge this movie existing. It's just no one was ever going to try comedy right out the gate and get it right. So
yeah, I gave it the same score as Elektra. So, Michael, we a few weeks ago guessed what we thought the Fantastic Four First Steps would get on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes,
I've seen bad things about it, but I don't know if that's just from anti-wokeoids.
Anti-wokeoids? Why? What's woke about the movie?
I think it has a woman in it, is my understanding.
Well,
and also Pedro Pascal said something pro-trans, so...
Well, yeah, I think he has a trans sibling, so...
Ooh, yeah, okay, that'll do it.
Yeah. Anyway, so Fantastic Four got 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. You guessed 91, I guessed 80, so it was almost exactly in the middle. You get 5 points added to your score. I get 6. Of course, more points is worse.
I am enjoying the fact I'm just slowly... This is very much a turtle and a hare. Tortoise and a hare.
So you're on 52 overall. I'm on 49 overall. So yeah, you go from 47 to 52. I go from 43 to 49. So the gap, instead of 4, the gap is now 3. Just 3 points between us. So yeah, it's very tight. And it's, of course, even tighter than it was. So Michael, what are we reviewing next time?
I believe we're reviewing Green Street.
Yes, in a couple of weeks' time, because that is the start of the football season for its 20-year anniversary. Green Street, looking forward to that. So yeah, see you then. I've been Luke. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.